I'm here with Dusty Hart, heading into a third season now as head coach at Blinn, but ABCA, ATEC, NJCA Division Three or Division One Coach of the Year, back-to-back World Series appearances, and was head coach at Grayson for 16 years, but also won the national championship in 2008. So we got a chance to meet in Grand Junction. So thanks for jumping on with me.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me.
Is this kind of why you took the Blinn job coming over from Grayson? Because you kind of knew the history of the program and what it was capable of?
I mean, there was a lot of reasons probably. I mean, I think one of them, the biggest one was probably I think I was just ready for a new challenge. I'd been at Grayson for so long. I was the assistant coach for 4 years before I was the head coach. So, I mean, we're talking 20 years that I spent at Grayson. And Blinn was always kind of the unicorn in Texas anyway. I don't know about on the national level, but, as far as baseball coaches and, we all talk. And I think everybody always kind of said, Blinn could be a really good place to be and could be a national power. And I'm not saying I was the right guy, but it was kind of time in my career where I was ready to see if I was the right guy.
I mean, have you had a chance to reflect much? 41-17, probably didn't start out the year that you wanted, but you guys got it going.
Yeah, I mean, those early on in the year, I think we lost 8 one-run games. And so we knew we were close. We knew what we had. I thought we had the best team in the country, if not the best. I knew we had a chance to be the best team in the country just from the talent level that was running around and the arms we had in the dugout. So it was a slow start, but it ended up paying off in the long run. I think, getting punched in the mouth and things not necessarily going the way we wanted them to, it kind of taught those guys how to fight and grind. And we needed every inch of that fight in the World Series. I mean, I don't think we played one game that wasn't a nail biter. So it certainly paid off at the end.
When do you put your fall schedule together? You guys play a great fall schedule. So when do you put that together?
Just kind of once the season's over, you start reaching out to guys. Unfortunately, we were so late getting started just because we played for so long that we kind of got the leftover dates as far as things are concerned, just because a lot of people had their schedules done already. So, but I love to challenge our guys. I mean, I enjoy playing good competition. I enjoy finding out what we need to do to get better, and you only do that by playing really good teams. So I was a little concerned just because I was afraid we were really going to get left out in the cold and not find any games at all. And we ended up with a really good fall schedule. So I'm excited to get started and see what we can do.
You got a couple D1s mixed in again?
We're playing Rice. Tried to get something going with Tarleton, and it was too late. So we'd already maxed out our schedule, but that's cool. Our guys would get to go to Rice and play on their field and play in front of their coaches, and so it's always neat to kind of compare yourself to where those guys are, and hopefully it opens our guys' eyes a little bit. To see how much work they really got to put in to get to where they want to go.
But for me, watching as many different levels, there's not a lot of difference between what you all are rolling out there and what the Division Ones are rolling out there.
Nah, I think experience is the main thing. Our guys are mostly freshmen, sophomores, and they're younger, and you're playing the same talent level probably. Not necessarily the same, but you're also playing guys that have had 800 collegiate at bats and thrown 900 innings. So I mean, it's like they know they have a little better feel on. You take a bad swing, they're probably going to throw the same pitch, or just how to get you out, kind of. But I think that helps us as hitters and pitchers. We find those those weak spots and hopefully work on them and get better by the time the spring rolls around.
How do you relay that to your incoming freshman pitchers that they've got to get ready to go? Because it's a big schedule that you guys play in the fall. How do you make sure they're ready to go?
Well, I mean, that's just an everyday process. We start them off. I think they'll throw 3 or 4 bullpens before they face hitters. And then really the last week before we start playing is when we hit the inter squad really hard. We're going like Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And I don't know that there is a way to prepare them. I mean, I think some of that is good. They get punched in the mouth a little bit. And once again, like talked about earlier, just a little adversity, make it hard on them. And the good ones always figure out how to make adjustments. And there's a lot of talented baseball players these days, and the ability to make adjustments can be can be the difference between you moving on or you not playing anymore, because the talent, it's like looking in the mirror for a lot of these guys nowadays. So, I mean, you got to find a way to separate yourself. And usually guys that can adjust and say, okay, well, this isn't working anymore, I got to do something else, and not get, their feelings hurt or, just have a bad attitude or whatnot. It's just like understanding, like, okay, they did this, now I got to do that. And, that's a big part of this game.
Have you seen kids maybe take it a little bit more personally when they're not doing well as when you first started?
Oh, I think there's always been guys that overcompete, which is not a good thing in baseball. You got to have a short-term memory. You got to work on that. I mean, that's not something that's born. I mean, I was a perfect example. Like, I hated losing. I hated getting out. I was, probably not the best example when I was younger. I just threw helmets and bats and all kinds of, who knows what was going on. But
did you ever grow out of that?
Yeah, I have. I did. I wish I would have earlier. I hate to be the old man yelling at the clouds or whatnot, but you try to get it across to your players that 4 years. I mean, a lot of them only have 4 years to play college baseball. Not all of them are going to play professional baseball. So I think by the time I was a junior, maybe going into my senior year, I kind of learned how to handle that failure. But man, there's not many days I don't look back and go, God, I wish I knew when I was a freshman what I know now. And just to be able to handle failure, it's inevitable. You're going to fail in this game.
You start talking about that with them as soon as they get on campus?
The first day, the first meeting, just being mentally tough, being able to handle difficult situations. A lot of these guys, this is the best team they've ever been on. And that goes for every college baseball player, probably. I mean, they all think they played on the Evo Shield Canes or, the national teams, travel teams. And you're never going to find a select high school baseball team that's equivalent to any level of college baseball. You're just not. And select guys probably argue with me on that, but I'm just telling you, I've seen it a million times. Guys that were studs or 5-star guys, or we thought no brainer our 3-hole hitter, no brainer conference starter, and sometimes those guys pan out and sometimes they don't.
And some of that is those kids have never struggled before, and they're going to struggle. And so how do they deal with the struggle? And once you finally do start getting punched in the mouth for the first time, how are you able to handle that and get off the mat?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I'm, of course, this is my opinion, but professional baseball players are the most mentally tough athletes in the world. Those guys can handle failure. Like, they may get 2 pitches to hit in 5 at bats, and that's the difference between going 2 for 5 and 0 for 5. You miss those 2 pitches, and you're 0 for 5 on the day. you don't miss them, and you're 2 for 5 on the day. And so at this level, you're going to get 1 to 2 pitches hit every at bat. I think at the Division I level, you're probably going to get 1 pitch to hit every at bat. Sometimes you're facing Paul Skeens when he's at LSU. It might be 1 or 2 pitches the entire game that you're going to get to hit. And I don't want to simplify it to a point that it's too much, but I mean that's literally the difference. Like, you can't miss. You can't foul that pitch off and expect to get another pitch to hit, or you're in trouble.
Majority of kids going to Texas junior college because of pro ball or college, or is it a mix of both?
I think it's a mix of both. Pro ball's probably not as prevalent as it was 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I think now a lot of them, the majority of them, end up in junior college because they didn't get the offer to the right Division I school or the level that they aspire to play at. You have your Tanner E's and your K Climbys, those kind of guys they were wanting to play professional baseball, and it just didn't work out for them, so they'll go to their Division I's this year. But I would say those are the minority now. I don't know.
With 20 rounds, it just seems with the 20-round draft, it's taken a little bit of that out of there.
It really has. And I'm not sure college baseball is not more popular than the MLB right now. Honestly, I think the NCAA and Omaha has done such a great job of marketing. And, I just think guys want to play at LSU. They want to play in the SEC. And not that they don't want to play in professional baseball. I mean, I just feel like college baseball's the thing to go.
Probably your quickest way to get there now. Honestly, it's probably your quickest way to get there now.
You got Dylan Cruz and Skeens, and like they're spending 1 year in the minors and they're already in the big leagues, and that's a 5, 6, 7 year long thing if you're a high school kid. A lot of times if you go, because you're just physically not. I mean, there's not many Jackson Holidays on the planet. That guy's 18, 19 years old, and it's the physicality that is the biggest difference, just being strong enough to play every single day. And that just takes time. I mean, some guys just aren't ready till they're 25 years old.
Now, with y'all playing so many fall games, is your training pretty similar in the fall and the spring, just because the amount of games you're playing in both seasons?
No, in the fall, we really hit the weight room hard. We try to maximize our weights, try to get as big and strong as we can. And, the pitchers especially, they're throwing 1 or 2 innings regardless. Doesn't matter who we play or where we play. We minimize their innings to 1 or 2 so they can really, really get after it in the weight room. Position players, it's kind of an everyday. I mean, you're always you have to lift. Like, when do big leaguers lift? I mean, they play 162 games in 170 days or whatever it is, and you can't tell me Shohei and Trout and those guys aren't lifting because they're playing. I mean, it's just how you train your body to handle it. We do have to work our way into it. Like, we didn't start lifting last week. We're going to kind of slowly work our way into it. And then in the spring, it does become a little more maintenance. We're not lifting as heavy, probably not as often, just trying to go 2 or 3 days a week and hopefully maintaining the strength that they got in the fall.
Is that part of because your Region 14 schedule is set up where you play midweek games and then also weekend games in conference?
Yeah, we're playing usually 5 games a week. 1 on Tuesday, 1 on Thursday, 2 on Saturday, and then we'll try to mix in some Monday games as well. So it just becomes hard to lift, the time with managing school. And I'm not a guy. I just don't believe in getting them up at 6 a.m. and lifting. I feel like you got to eat. I feel like you need to be awake. You need to have some food in your stomach. And just in my experience, and I've done this forever, I feel like now we've tried everything, and the 6 a.m. weights just never worked for us for whatever reason. I'm sure there's a lot of teams that have success with it, but for me, I just felt like guys were walking zombies. And if you're gonna do something, either do it right or don't do it at all. That's kind of what I always fall back to.
Did you like playing that tournament January 20th? That was kind of something new, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was great. Really good. Getting to play at Texas Ranger Stadium. We had it was a scrimmage, so we couldn't count it as a game. We kind of treated it like a fall game, like a normal fall baseball game would. And then we had to schedule 54 games instead of 56. Like, it took away from our two spring games, but what a great experience, just getting to play in a big league stadium. I mean, that was my first time coaching in a big league dugout. I mean, how many opportunities do you get to do that? And so Jeremy Booth put that on with Future Stars, and they kind of changed the format up, and it really didn't match what we needed to do or what I was wanting to do. So we're not going to do it this year. Had they kept it the same as last year, we would have 100% done it. But they wanted to do a qualifying tournament in the fall, and I mean, for us, it's just counter.
You're not at that point yet. You're just not at that point yet from a development standpoint.
No. And then if you don't qualify, it's not a good look when your whole program is based on recruiting. If you lose a fall tournament and all of a sudden we get beat by somebody and don't qualify I just didn't see how it fit what we wanted to do. And nothing against those guys. They've done a phenomenal job with what they're doing, and that thing's going to be awesome. And I would love to do it again, but I don't want to play a qualifying tournament in the fall and put our pitchers really at risk of injuring themselves when they're not ready to go 5 or 6 innings, So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
And I like the 1 to 2 innings a week in the fall for pitchers. I do. I know some schools do that different, where they try to stretch their guys out in the fall a little bit more, but I always felt like it was more beneficial for them as well in the weight room and in their bullpen. I felt like their bullpens were much better in that respect.
Yeah. I feel like it gives them a chance to really long toss too. We try to keep our guys on like, if they throw Wednesday, they're going to throw Wednesday the whole fall. And that way we can really get them on a throwing program, a schedule where they know when they're bullpenning, they know where they're lifting, they know when they're long tossing. Because that becomes difficult in the spring to really juggle, especially your relievers, because they could throw Tuesday, Thursday, or Saturday. And so finding time for them to long toss and really have a throwing program, it does become a pretty big juggle for those guys. So you don't want to go long toss 45 minutes on Monday and then you get thrown in the fire on Tuesday. I mean, it's just definitely something that we have to work around to keep those guys healthy and to keep them strong by the end of the spring. By the time you get in Grand Junction, you don't want guys dropping down to 84. And so that's always been a struggle, really, especially with the relievers. Starters, it's kind of easy, when they're going to start. Being a college reliever, it's a tough adjustment for some of those guys because they're just as good as their starters a lot of times. And they don't always understand that the relievers probably play a more important role than the starters do 90% of the time. I mean, I feel like games are won or lost in the 7th through the 9th inning. And if you can go to a guy out of the bullpen that's just as good as your starter, I mean, what an advantage to have. Most schools you play don't have that. So that's kind of what we're shooting for as a staff, is basically go from 1A to 1B to 1C in the same game.
I think the hardest thing for them is maintaining their feel in season and getting enough bullpen time, even if it's just a short box pregame, even if they're hot that day and they haven't been off the mound in a while, just have them do a short box pregame just so they're kind of maintaining their feel a little bit.
Right. Well, and especially freshmen that are used to throwing 7 innings every week, and they were starters. They're all starters in high school, and um, it takes some unselfishness too, because everybody wants to be a starter. So you really have to stress to those guys like, hey, this role might be the most important role on the team. Like my goal at the first of the spring every year is to find our closer who can finish games, who can get the last 3 outs. Because you got a lot of guys that can start, but who can bounce back, who has some elasticity to their arm, not sore for. I mean, there's some guys whether they throw 6 innings or 2 innings, they're sore for 4 or 5 days, no matter what, just because of the max effort. And so just trying to figure out who those guys are. And you don't really get that in the fall because you're doing the 1 or 2 innings for everybody. So that's certainly one of our goals beginning of the spring is let's find out who can finish these games and try to do it pretty quick.
When do you relay that role wise to those guys? So say you've got a freshman who started and like, hey, this is probably what's best for our team this year is you to come out of the bullpen.
Kind of as the season goes, we will start probably 7, 8, 9 different guys. And like the first game of the season, our guys usually are ready for 3 to 4 innings max because we only have about 3 weeks to prepare for opening day. So you may throw your number one, your number two, and your number three in game one, which I kind of like because it kind of forces our hand to throw, give a different guy a start. I've actually had a couple years where like our number two, number three didn't make their first start of the year till conference, because we couldn't get to them. We'd get in a tight game with somebody really good and you start competing and you look down that bench and you see number two sitting there and he's ready to go. It's like, hey, you're going, like, get loose. We're going to you right now, and so once you get into conference is kind of when we want to have our 1, 2, 3, 4 with relievers. And I mean, we talk to them every day. I mean, we're very open, it's very much a conversation with our guys. So we try not to surprise them. I mean, you don't just want to throw a guy in the bullpen and make him a reliever, and in my opinion, and just not say anything and not address it with them. I just think you got to be on the same page. And for the most part, when that conversation is a two-way conversation, it usually takes care of itself. The guys know where they stand pretty quick with us anyway.
Have you always had that where it's best available guy as we're going to whoever's best available at this point?
Early on in the year, for sure. Yeah. And then once conference starts, you kind of plan it out. Like, all right, like for us, it's really weird. I won't say weird, but like we play Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday one week, but then the next week we play Thursday, Saturday. So whoever starts on Tuesday, he's basically skipping a week. So he may be in relief the following week. Like, if you're playing Thursday, the guy that started the previous Tuesday, if he's ready to go, you're throwing him. So then that means somebody else has to start on that Tuesday. I like it because it gives us, we had probably 10 or 11 guys make starts last year. It kind of helps them mentally too. Like, hey, coach thinks I can start. Like he knows I can start. He started me here, but he needs me to relieve here. And that's where the unselfishness stuff kind of comes in. Like you would like to think that they're all pulling for each other. And Yeah, it's not always that. That's not always the case. But the best teams, that's really what it takes is everybody pulling from the same rope. I don't want to sound cliche, but
Skip
I
Bartman.
always feel like cliches. There's so much truth to them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be cliches. Yeah, everybody says them because they're true.
You know, with your early schedule and how challenging it is, you know that you may not, you know, you're gonna scrape and claw in the beginning. How do you relay that to your guys as far as, hey, it's a challenging schedule, but also maybe not having them think too much of it? And you talk about over competing. Like, I think that's the thing that happens sometimes with guys that don't handle it well is, hey, we've got this really good schedule. We need to go out and try to do more than what we're capable of, rather than just staying within ourselves.
Well, that's tough. That's one of the tough things about playing the schedule. I've always said if you hit 350 or higher playing for us, you've done something because our non-conference games, some of them are worse than our conference games as far as the pitching we're facing. So um, you have to keep that positive and that confidence, which we just tell them like, hey, this is what you want. This is what you signed up for. This is what you came to Blinn for. You want to go play in the SEC. You want to go play in the Big 12. And when you're in the SEC, there are no days off. I mean, you're playing LSU. You may go to Vanderbilt next, South Carolina. Oh, here comes Tennessee. Like, whoa, that's what That's what you want. You want to face that good pitching day in and day out. So I feel like it's our job. We want to win. We want to go to Grand Junction and all that, but we also want our guys to go be. We want them to go be difference makers wherever they go. I don't want them to go be a role player at LSU or whatever school, Tennessee, Texas Tech. We'd like to see them walk in there and really make a difference at that level. And the only way to do that is to challenge them, at least in my opinion. But there's a lot of work that goes into their confidence and just reassuring them and building them up, and you definitely have to be careful there because and to me, if they can't handle that, then they're just not going to play very long.
And that shows that too. Like, if you can't handle it there, then obviously it's not the type of environment that you need to go to a 4-year school and play in.
Right.
At least then.
Yeah. I mean, that stuff weeds itself out, and we tell them like, we're not mad at you. You're just you're not good enough to play here. I mean, it's not personal. Like some of the guys my favorite guys I've ever coached never even played hardly. But they're good kids and we still treat them right. And I think that's where that open communication comes in, they know, some of them know not to ask me because they're going to get the truth. Like if you're going to ask me, you better be ready for the truth. But that's a good thing in my opinion. And it's not even, hell, I wasn't good enough. I didn't play pro ball. I mean, I played independent ball for a year and got released, and the world didn't end. If it was up to me, I'd be in the big leagues right now. Like I'd cut my left arm off to play professional baseball in the big leagues. So it doesn't mean you can't be a good dad, good husband, good father, good person. Doesn't mean you can't be a millionaire. Go be a doctor, be a lawyer. You hope that they learn lessons through sport that help them in their other walks of life.
I just think the earlier you can learn how to separate being a baseball player from being a normal human being and be able to separate those two out, I think it's a much healthier relationship mentally with the game when you can try to separate those two things.
Well, and that's one thing. I've done that my entire career. Like we don't practice on Sundays. Like it's time to go to church. It's time to go play golf, fish, whatever it is that you want to sleep in and play Nintendo all day. That's we don't tell them what to do. It's been a staple of my program forever. We've never practiced on Sundays. I've started giving them a lot of the weekends off in the fall, just to get away. And it was almost by accident. I mean, my family wasn't here the first 2 years. And so I would go home on the weekends, but I started noticing that Monday practices were like 1,000 times better than they had ever been. And because, I mean, when I was younger, it was grind and grind and grind, and we're practicing Monday through Saturday. If we had a game on Monday, we're practicing on Sunday, even a little BP. And in my mind, that was almost a day off, right? At that point in time, like, hey, we're just showing up, taking BP, and getting out of here. Hour practice. And now it accidentally, because of the nature, the circumstances I was in, and I'm trying to be a good father to my kids and be a good husband to my wife. So I'm going to see them, and then all of a sudden I'm like, dang, Monday practices, these dudes are fired. They're like hooked up and ready to go. And now I've got the family moved, and we'll have some Saturday practices, in preparation, like for before we start playing or stuff. But I do think that's a great point you make right there. Just they have to get away from it. They're not professional baseball players. They're 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. They need some time to be a kid, and it does. That's probably the biggest shock to their system sometimes when they get here is the business aspect of it and the time management. Like, we're going 2 to 5, break for dinner, weight room 6 to 9. So, I mean, you're putting in more work than they've probably ever put into it in their entire life. And, they gotta separate. You can't define yourself as a baseball player. Once again, we're talking 4 years of your life, right? Like, that's going to go by in the blink of an eye. You're going to look up and be doing what we're doing right now and going, damn, I wish I was still playing.
Do you like the 10-run rule after 5?
I mean, if we're on the good side of that, probably sometimes. Early in the year, I hate it. Early in the year, I hate.
You feel like you're losing some reps on it.
Yeah, and you're losing opportunities to get guys some at bats. If you're up 10 to nothing after 5 and the game's over, that's a perfect opportunity to get some guys in the game, especially non-conference when the games don't count. Yeah. And if you're down 10 to nothing, it's a good opportunity to get guys in the game. Pitchers, hitter, it doesn't matter, just whoever. Because that's all we're trying to do before conferences evaluate. And we want to get as many at-bats as we can and get as many innings on the mound as we can. And I could tell you 1,000 stories of guys. I had a left-handed pitcher one year. I won't say his name, so I don't want to embarrass him, but, he's 80 to 82 and probably had just okay stuff. He let's just say this. We had 16 pitchers. He was number 16 on the depth chart. We play a four-game series early in the year. We throw him out there in the very last inning of the 4th game. He goes 3 up, 3 down, cruises through it. Well, then he moves up a couple pegs, and whenever the bullpen is like, all right, we need the strike thrower. Well, he did good last time. Let's go to him, see what he does. Boom, boom, boom. 6 outs like that. Next thing I know, by the time conference rolls around, he's a conference starter. The guy goes 10-1, gets a scholarship to OU, and Pitt's 2 years for him. And this is way back. I know a lot of people are probably saying it's Braden Carmichael, but it wasn't Braden. Braden was never number 16 on our depth chart. This was a different kid. But I've got a ton. I mean, I've got more stories about, hell, Tanner Reeves. Tanner Reeves we redshirted him his freshman year when I was still at Grayson at the time. And small town kid, hadn't played a lot of baseball. You know, he's playing football, basketball, doing all three sports, and that game was really fast for him, you know, that first year. And give him a year to get bigger, stronger, faster, and next thing you know, boom, he's a D1 All-American as a redshirt freshman. And uh, you know, I could tell you stories after stories about guys that just they surprise you. So we don't know everything, and the only way to really know is to see them play. And so where that run rule comes in and early in the season, I mean, who knows what it could possibly make us miss on just because they never even get the opportunity to get out there.
When do you approach redshirting the kids?
We try to, you know, some of them we know fairly quickly. I try to tell them in their exit meeting in the fall if they're going to redshirt. The guys on that line, we typically just go into the season and like if you haven't played in the first 3 weeks, you probably need to redshirt. Because we are trying to get guys in. We are trying to get guys, you know, in on the mound. We are trying to get guys extra at bats. We'll do some matchup type stuff. Like if we got a left-handed pitcher throwing, we'll play a right-handed lineup. And, you know, then they go to a reliever, they go to a righty. We'll pinch hit the left-hand hitters. Like we do a lot of that stuff early on. And, there's no worse feeling as a coach, at least for me, and it's happened. Unfortunately, it has happened to me where we look up at the end of the year and the kid's got 4 innings, you know, and it happened to me my first year at Blinn, and you know, a kid had a really good fall. He threw well the entire fall. He threw well in all the inter squads leading up to the season. We threw him the first game of the year in relief. Like he was the first guy out of the bullpen in relief. And it wasn't good. You know, he walked 5-6 guys and just didn't handle the moment great. And you know, a week later you do the same thing, the kid does the same thing, and there's only so many opportunities. And, you know, we start playing well and got other guys start pitching well. And you look up and you're like, ah, man, we wasted that guy's year for 4 innings. And we clearly thought he was good or we wouldn't have thrown him the first game of the year in relief. But it happens. But usually that red line just kind of, if they hadn't played by the first 3 or 4 weeks, when we know that we're trying to get guys in the game, I'll pull them aside and say, hey, you probably need a red shirt. We'll still travel you. You've already got a uniform. Soak everything in. You know, learn. You can learn every game. So it's not so new to you the next year. And they don't always, you know, we tell them, like, look, you got to trust us. Like, we know what we're doing. Like, we think we know what we're doing anyway. But we try to do the best thing for the kid. I mean, at the end of the day, we're human just like everybody else, so we've screwed that up some. But that's never your intention. So I don't want to waste the guy's year for 20 at-bats, for 25 at-bats. Like we had 4 or 5 guys on our team last year that I knew I could put them in there when we're up 15-2, and they're going to be fine, and they're going to hit fine. But it's like, is that what you want to waste one of your 4 years doing, and now you only have 3 left? I would think not. And so you do have to make that decision for them sometimes because they're going to want to play, even if it's 1 at bat when it's 15-2. And it's like, it's not what's best for your career. So we try to avoid that at all costs, you know. So, but yeah, we don't really. I mean, you feel awful when that kind of stuff happens to a kid.
It also helps their development timeline too, because the lifting schedule, if they know early enough that they are redshirting, their lifting schedule can change.
It could change their career.
Yes.
I mean, that's exactly what happened with Tanner. He kept a good attitude. He never complained. He never questioned. It was just like, what do I need to do? Well, you need to lift. You need to kick your butt in the weight room. You need to get after it. You can long toss every day. Your whole goal in life needs to be bigger, faster, stronger. Learn, because we traveled him. He was one of the kids we traveled. And, you know, not every story is going to end like him with LSU and two-time MVP of the region. But he's not the first one that's happened to. I mean, we've had a couple guys, maybe not quite to that level, but that's the goal for us. Like, we want you, and everybody, that timeline is different. Physically, your growth time is different for every guy. You know, some guys a year, and in this day and age where, you know, 10 years ago, you didn't redshirt guys in junior college baseball. It just didn't make any sense. But now with the portal, everybody wanting older players, they don't even think twice about it. Like, oh, you're redshirted, whatever. You're older. That just helps us. You're 21 now instead of 19 or whatever. So there's really no right or wrong way to do this deal, to be honest. I mean, I think it's different for every kid.
How do you prep for Grand Junction? Because that bracket is like nothing you ever go through as a player. So how do you prep for that?
You know, we just kind of sit our guys down and just say, embrace it, have fun, go do your thing. But at the end of the day, remember who you are. You know, you're not a millionaire. You know, you're not in the big leagues. They're going to treat you like one. I mean, Grand Junction is unbelievable out there, what they do. But we tell them, you know, it's not a vacation. It's a business trip. So give us 10 more days. 10 more days and you can do whatever you want the rest of summer. You can go to the pool every day. You can chase all the women you want. But while we're here in Grand Junction, you need to be focused in on what we're trying to do. And I learned some of that stuff the hard way, you know, like early on in my career when we win a couple times, it turned into a vacation for some guys. Mom and dad were taking them out. And, you know, I remember very vividly one year, we went to eat, did whatever. I got back on the bus and there's like 5 guys on the bus because they'd all gone their directions with mom and dad and going to do all the things. And I was like, man, this ain't good. You know, they need to be together. And of course, that was one of the years we didn't win it, and I'm not blaming it on that. But from that point on, it's kind of turned into, hey, your mom and dad are more than welcome to come eat with us. You don't even have to eat if you don't. If they want to take you to get a steak, that's fine. But you're coming. If the bus is leaving, you're on it. Mom and dad can sit and eat with us at the restaurant if they want. But you're going to be on the bus to the restaurant, back to the hotel. Then if you want to go to steak with mom and dad, get after it, because we're probably going to the games to watch the games. But that's kind of been our rule the last probably 4 or 5 times. It's just, hey, the bus is going, you're on it. You have a ton of free time. You know, the days off, we're not really making them do a whole lot outside of the practice time. But, you know, you do have to be careful out there. I mean, there's a lot of distractions.
It's rated one of the best 10 downtowns in the United States, which I didn't realize that. And it's a great downtown area. It is
beautiful. Yeah, everything about that whole experience is it's worth every ounce of blood, sweat, and tears that you have to sacrifice to get there. If that's the one thing I could bottle up and just give it to our players every year. If they knew what they were playing for, they would sacrifice whatever they had to do to get there. And I think that's probably the hardest part. Like this year, we probably got 5 guys back. We got a whole new team. We had a ton of sophomores last year. It's going to be kind of like in 23 when we were all freshmen. And hopefully we can keep the cycle going. But you just never know if guys are going to really buy in, or a lot of times they'll have one foot out the door. They use Blinn as a stepping stone to where they're going, or any junior college as a stepping stone to where they're going. And the problem with that is you usually don't end up the destination that you want to go if you don't have both feet in the ground where you're at.
We mentioned that last week. Like that's a thing. It's like you're going to have to be invested into winning at some point if you want to do well in this thing. And if you don't do it now, then you're going to get punched in the mouth at the next place you're at.
Well, I think that's an important lesson to learn, especially if you want to play in the big leagues, because you might be in rookie ball, short season, low A, high A, double A, triple A. And if you're constantly looking over your shoulder, if I'm a shortstop, am I looking at the high A shortstop and the double A shortstop? And you're just adding pressure. You're adding pressure to your own career, to yourself. The only way to do this deal, and this, of course, is my opinion again, but just go help. You do whatever you got to do to help your team win that day. And you focus on winning, you focus on executing, you focus on playing the game good and trying to help your team win. And usually that equals the success that you want to achieve. Not always, but once again, not everybody's a professional baseball player. Not everybody's a SEC baseball player. And that's fine. You don't have to be. I know you want to be. But everybody, we can all sit here and say we want to win the national championship this year. I guarantee you, every single junior college baseball team in the country right now is saying we want to win the national championship in 2025. So, it takes a special group of dudes and some bought-in guys with both feet on the ground. I don't know how you win it without that.
For somebody that doesn't know about Texas junior college baseball, how would you describe it to them?
Really good baseball. Probably way better than anybody gives it credit for. In fact, I would urge any parent of a high school or any high school baseball player to go watch a Blinn versus McLennan baseball game, or Weatherford versus Grayson baseball game. You're going to see 90 to 95 probably every pitch for 9 innings from multiple pitchers. You're also going to see guys hitting balls 400 feet off 95. You're going to see some physical kids that it's going to give you an idea of how tough it is to play college baseball right now. Especially even, our guys going to the next level. Like, they're going to have to go earn it. Like, Tanner Reeves is not just going to walk in the door and throw his glove on the field and play every day at LSU. Like, he's going to have to play well. He's going to have to play good when he gets there. And if he doesn't, he doesn't. And, he learned a very valuable lesson. After his redshirt freshman year, he got asked to go to the Cape, and he went up there, and I think he had 4 at bats, and I think he punched out 3 times and walked once, and then got sent home. And you're talking about, he was arguably the best player in junior college baseball in 23. Guy had 109 hits. And so he was a little bitter about the deal. Kind of, I didn't get my opportunity. Kind of that. And I was like, Tanner, well, what do you think would have happened if you were 3 for 4 with 3 doubles? And he was kind of like, yeah, probably would have played. I was like, yeah, you probably would have played, and you weren't, and that's fine. But sometimes you never know how many opportunities you're going to get. Like, you might only get 1 or 2 opportunities. And if you're 0 for 2 with 2 punch outs, does it suck? Yes, it absolutely sucks. But had you hit 2 doubles, had you been ready, even if you go have 2 really good at bats and walk twice and foul off 15 pitches, there's a pretty good chance whoever's coaching is gonna give you more opportunities than they did. And so hopefully, and I know Tanner learned from that, because that's the kind of kid he is, and hopefully it propels him in his future endeavors, because it's gonna be tough at LSU, tougher than it was at Blinn, for sure.
This is a listener question, actually. What's the most challenging in-game situation you've ever had?
Ever had? It might have been last year. Honestly, we were down by 2 to Flodar in the 9th, and they walked the first 2 guys in the lineup, but we're in the 9 hole. And we had Tanner, Climby, and Ferraro 1, 2, 3. And so we called a bunt. We bunted after 2 consecutive walks, and got the guys a second and third, and it almost backfired. Fortunately, we ended up scoring and winning the game. I think Tanner struck out, so then we had second and third with 2 outs, and of course we trusted that Tanner and Climby and Ferraro. We trusted our guys were going to get the job done, or we wouldn't have put the bunt down. That definitely was up there, because it's
especially
hard to
2 walks. Like, that's the thing. It's
Yeah.
like he just walked the first 2 guys. It's like, do we want to give up an out here? But you're in the 9 hole. Like, percentage wise, you almost have to in that situation. But you're also damned if you do, damned if you don't in that situation. And that's why coaching is so beautiful. It's because that could have not worked out or worked out either way. You could have let him swing away and you walk, or he hits into a double play and you're out of the inning. Like, there's so many different variables in that situation.
No doubt. And that's the thing. We took a strike. It wasn't like we go in there and give him bunt and he's going to bunt the first pitch. It was fake bunt, the first one, see if the guy threw a strike, and he did. And so then we got the bunt down, and that's tough. That's a tough question to answer. I'm lucky that it just happened, because otherwise I probably wouldn't even remember. I do have a pretty short-term memory when it comes to some of that stuff, but I definitely remember the losses way more than the wins. Those stick with you a while, especially the tough losses. But and I'm not a big bunter. Anybody that's played for me can tell you, like, we don't. And you saw enough of our games. We like to hit. We're pretty aggressive. So,
but that's the magic, the gut feel piece of that. It's like, okay, we hardly ever do this, but this situation is calling for us to do this right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would do anything different. I did lose a game one year to get eliminated in Grand Junction. We were tied with Iowa Western, and we had second and third, and we had 1 out, and we intentionally walked the guy to load the bases, which percentage-wise was the right call. And then we walked the guy on the next guy on 5 pitches. And so I told myself, like, I'm never doing that again. Like, 18, 19-year-olds, you don't know if they're going to throw strikes all the time. And second and third, base open, pitch to the guy, maybe we don't walk him. Who knows what happens, but it was tough to get eliminated on a 5-pitch walk, especially when we had just intentionally walked the bases loaded. That's one that's stuck with me. I think when you're in professional baseball and you have professional pitchers, you know they're going to throw a strike,
Yep.
even if they have to throw it right down the middle. They're not going to walk the next guy. We kind of added even more pressure to a 19-year-old by walking the bases loaded. And now you know the percentage play. It was the right call. You know, you got to turn the double play or the game's over because it's the bottom of the ninth. So you got to either go infield in or you got to turn the double play. So you walk the bases loaded, and then
Did you bring the infield in?
Yeah, I mean you have to,
I
right
think
there.
you have to in that situation. You have to. You'd like
You
to think
would-
your guys are going to be able to turn a double play in that situation, but it's not always the case either.
We work on that.
Plus,
We
it
work
puts a little heat on the hitter too. Like that
Yeah.
that's the thing too. I think, you know, that puts a little extra heat on the hitter then too. I know we're on bases loaded, but guys aren't always real good once the infield's in their face because they start
Yeah.
to change some things offensively with their
They
swing.
feel a little pressure,
Yeah.
and they feel like they have to get the ball up in the air in order to get the job done. And so we've had I've brought 5 infielders in before, you know, brought a guy in. In fact, Bishop this year, he played some second, some short, our center fielder, and we had worked on that with him. We had told him, you know, we had put him right behind the pitcher kind of and moved the shortstop over in the hole. And you just have to work on that stuff. And we even worked on turning double plays out of that lineup with Bishop is standing basically right on top of the bag. Because if the ball's hit hard enough and you can turn 2, you got to turn 2 because the inning's over. Even though probably 7 out of 10 you're going 4 with it.
Yep.
You know, unless it's an automatic double play, like you have to go 4.
Have to. Still same assistants as last year?
I actually got 2 new assistants. Coach Rupp is still here. Eric Weaver, he got the head job at Sand Jack, so was really happy for him. It's his first head coaching job, so you know, kind of one of those deals that you have to take that job. Not that he would have not taken it, but especially at that program, you know, good program, good tradition. So it'll be interesting. We're gonna have to change, you know, all our signs and probably mix everything up. But Weaver's a great dude. Love him. Happy for him. Actually hired James Leverton. He was a pitching coach at McLennan when they won the national championship, and then been at Baylor. And I brought on
I like Lev a lot.
great dude.
Great. Dude.
Gonna be a huge addition to the staff. You can't replace Weaver, you know, the person. And we're not even trying to, you know, Lev brings different things to the table. So, but what I've seen over the first week, he's going to be really good, man. Really good with the pitchers. And Chase
Seems like he connects very well with them.
Yeah.
Seems like he connects really well on a one-on-one basis with them.
I've been really lucky as far as assistance goes, from getting Coach Cameron Rupp and Weaver, and then losing Weaver and being able to bring on Leverton, you know, and Chase Van Dyke also came over from Ranger. He was Rangers pitching coach last year, and I think he had 2 or 3 of the top strikeout guys in the country at Ranger College, which that's doing something, you know. So both those guys are working with the pitchers kind of hand in hand, and Chase brings a different perspective from all of us old guys. You know, he's really good with the Yacker Tech and the TrackMan and Raps. So all the numbers, like, this guy's super smart. Like, I don't even know what he's talking about half the time. So
I think you got to have at least one on your staff now that can handle the numbers piece of it. Doesn't have to be a lot, but I just think there has to be one that can communicate what the numbers are saying now.
Well, he's really good at it, and they helped. I mean, they helped us last year just a little bit we didn't know a lot about it. We had the Yakkertech, and that was the first year we had it last year. So we were kind of learning, and we were calling our buddies at like Texas, and we're calling their guys A&M, and kind of getting. But Bryson Dudley's a perfect example. Freshman year always had great stuff, but the freshman year was just real inconsistent, up and down. With the Yacker Tech, we were able to find out that like his IVB is like 22, like which is I think the major league average is 19 or 20. So, if your IVB is high, you can pitch up in the zone, and that completely changed his career. I mean, we started working on it in the bullpen, starting adding in games, calling fastballs at the belt. And I mean, just took him to a whole different level. And it was all just figuring out where his stuff played in the strike zone, he had ended up signing with Texas. I think he ended up going to Texas State after the coaching change and all the things. But just turn the kid's whole career in a different direction just from learning, from the numbers, which, 5 years ago, non-existent, that kind of stuff. But really excited to see what those guys are going to be able to do with that this year. We added the portable TrackMan for the bullpens in their Rapsodo, and we got some new toys that they're going to be able to play with this year that we didn't have last year. So I'm excited to see which direction that takes the pitching staff.
Do you have a fail forward moment? Something you thought was going to set you back, but looking back now, it helped you move forward?
Probably 2009, the year after we won the national championship. In 2008, I learned a really, really hard lesson, which I would think is a fail forward moment. But in 2008, it actually started in 2007. We had a lot of freshmen, really, really good. Our shortstop was a ninth rounder, second baseman in Miami. Like it was guy after guy after guy. So in 2008, we ended up winning the national championship, but we didn't recruit the right way. Like it was like, well, we don't need another shortstop because JD's going to play shortstop. He's going to be a sophomore. So instead of just signing the best players and letting them get out there and compete, we kind of, I don't want to say we settled, but it was like, well, who's going to play in front of that guy? We're not just going to take a guy or whatnot. So 2009, we showed back up, and I mean, there was not one player that was even in the dugout in 08. And we're the defending national champion, and I think we had one returning starter and 34 new players, and it was a nightmare. I think we started off like 0-9. It ended up the only year in my career where we had a below 500 record. I think we were like 30-34 or something. So I was miserable. I was rated it was bad, but learned a very tough lesson there. Just got to get the best players you can, and you can't get in your feelings, even though you love them and they're all good kids. But it's like at the end of the day, you got to bring the best guys you can find in here, and you got to treat them right. I think they got to want to come back. I mean, I think that's a part of it. That's probably the hardest part with what's going on right now for an old school guy like me, is just the loyalty. And some of these guys, they wouldn't even have had an opportunity if we hadn't given it to them. And then guys kind of it's a little musical chairs, so to speak. Guys are just moving on, and you put a lot of effort into helping guys on a daily basis, and then for them to just kind of pick up and move on, it does kind of hurt. I don't know how else to say it. It's kind of
It
like,
got me
damn.
on the back end when I got done, like, because it was just coming in, and it got me on a couple guys that we had given a lot of opportunities to as freshmen that would have never gotten that opportunity. Nobody was even recruiting these two, and one was really good on the mound, one was a good position player, and end up leaving their freshman summer. And I'm like, I'm just telling you, like, I've invested a lot into you two, and I don't think it's going to work out the way. And it didn't. It didn't work out. But you can't tell kids that now. Like, you just can't. They're not going to hear it. Parents aren't going to hear it. It's just, it is what it is.
It's taken some getting used to, because we and we spend more time with these guys than you do your own family a lot of times, and that part's hard. You develop relationships and you develop feelings for guys, and you want to help them, and it's not all of them. I mean, there's always going to be guys that you don't get along with them and they don't get along with you, and it's like, hey man, if this isn't the right spot, it's not the right spot. Like, I'm not that guy that doesn't release guys, or if you want to go wherever, whatever. It just doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm not that big on it, but that was definitely the fell forward moment, if you will. I mean, that was tough. There's only, I think this is my 23rd, 24th year, something like that, and there's been two times I haven't been in the postseason, and that was one of them. And believe it or not, I think it was maybe 18 or 19. No, it was the year after COVID. We got, I don't want to say, I mean, COVID screwed everybody, but we started off the year like 11-2, playing really good. Of course, this is when everybody's 6 feet apart and you couldn't lift and all the things, all the things that everybody was doing. And we had a kid get COVID. We're 11-2. We had a kid get COVID, and they sent us home. And this was in the middle of the spring. They sent us home. They cleared the dorm. They cleaned the dorm, did the whole thing. And this was when I was at Grayson before Blinn. And I'm not saying Blinn wouldn't have done the same thing. I have no idea. But they sent us home for 3 weeks. And of course, we're talking to the guys, telling them, are you practicing? Yes, we're throwing. Yes, whatever. We came back. They let us back on, I think it was like a Friday or Saturday, and our conference opened up on Wednesday. And we had just missed 3 weeks of the season, and the pitchers were completely out of shape, and we go into conference, and it was like, boom, we get punched in the mouth, like everybody else had been playing, though. That was the thing. And it's not an excuse, but man, we were never the same. We never recovered from that. And we were playing good early on. Like, we had gone down and played in like the Sand Jack tournament, and I think we went 4-0. And I mean, we had a good club, but we were never the same team after that. I think we missed the tournament by one game. I think came in 5th place. That's the lowest I've ever came, was 5th place. So I don't know if that's a fell forward moment.
Yeah, obviously you've adjusted on the fly as you have, and that's why I always ask that question, because I think people that are successful, they view those situations different than people that are not successful. They're able to reframe things that might bury other people, but they take it as learning, and they learn from it, and they move on, and they're able to make adjustments from it.
Yeah, it was tough, but I mean, what are you going to do? The biggest thing for us was like the pitchers we treated them like they'd been throwing and like we were in shape. And if I had it to do over again, we should have started them back at like 2 or 3 innings apiece. So I think we lost like three arms. It's like opening conference. The guy goes 6 innings, and he hadn't been long tossing, hadn't been throwing bullpen. Not like he would have been had we been playing. Yep. And we lost, I think, 3 of our 4 conference starters just go down. for the year. No surgical stuff, but it was just like,
Well, once you get behind and you're out of that routine and you try to overdo it even just a little bit early on, it's almost like the season started completely over for you all because
that
you had
was
3 weeks off.
the part that I miscalculated. I didn't miscalculate. I think I trusted that they were doing what they were telling me they were doing. And they probably were to a certain extent. But you got to think about, like, when we practice, like today, we're going to get loose. We'll do bunts and they cool down. Well, then we take BP, then they got to get loose again. Then they throw their bullpens. Like, there's you can't just go, and I think this might be helpful for some younger guys that are in an off-season program. I don't know that they realize how much they throw in a 4-hour long practice. So just going to the park and long tossing and getting a good 40 minutes worth of throwing in doesn't necessarily mean that you're practice ready, that you're game ready. Like, I think you need to, in order to really prepare for like a team practice or whatnot, you need to maybe go throw for 30 minutes, go hit, then go throw again, maybe hit some more, then throw again.
Your legs
Just
too. I mean, you're gonna have
Yes.
cleats on for that long. You haven't done that in a while. Like you're sprinting for a little bit, you're cooling down, you're sprinting again. Like all those things factor in from the ground up with your legs to your lower back to your arms. Like all those things matter.
No, and there's a lot of that in baseball practice, and you don't really even realize you're doing it because you're just doing what coach says, and you're moving to the next drill, and you're doing the thing, and it's like, oh, do you need to get loose again? Yeah, here's 5 minutes, get loose again. But it's a lot of throwing that you don't necessarily even realize you're doing that, and that's where if I had to do it over again, we probably should have almost treated it like early, like starting over. We should have started over is what we should have done. And who knows, maybe that one game we were short, it might have hurt us early, but we were losing the games early anyway. So what did it matter? You know what I mean? Like we might have, at the end, it might have paid off because we would have had those 2 or 3 guys. And I mean, that's one of the biggest differences between junior college and the Division I level is you lose a couple arms, you lose the wrong position player, it can change the dynamic pretty quick. Just the depth at that level is going to be a little better than it is here. Like our first 9 or 10 guys can go play against or with anybody in the country, but then I think the decline is a lot steeper at this level than it probably is at the University of Houston or you name the Division I school.
How did you handle the year with your family staying where they were at and you being there? Because I had to do it a couple times. My wife and I had to do it a couple times. I think it's a good insight because not everybody has to do this, but some of us have had to do this where our family stays and we're at the other place where we're coaching. How did you all handle that?
Well, I mean, thankfully there's FaceTime now. I mean, I don't know what we would have done without FaceTime. It would have been way harder. I got a little 7-year-old girl who was 5 at the time. So every time I saw her, I felt like she got a foot taller. So that was probably one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do. But at the same time, there's just not, college baseball jobs falling off trees. You don't get to pick and choose where you live and what town you're in. And my wife has a really good job too, so that factored into play. And so basically, if we played on a Saturday, I was driving my truck, I would follow the bus. And as soon as the game was over, I would drive to Sherman, get there 2 in the morning. But when woke up Sunday, spent the day with the family, and then drove back Sunday night and get back to Brenham about 2 a.m. just tried to do the best we could with it. Now they came here a lot on the weekends, especially once we started playing. They would come to the home games and they stayed with me at the apartment, and so we were seeing each other every weekend. And then, of course, Thanksgiving and Christmas, you get a month-long break. In the summer, it was easy in the summer because I could just go and I could just stay in North Texas and recruit all the DFW kids while Weave and those guys were down here in Houston. Like it kind of worked in the summer because we had the whole state of Texas covered recruiting wise. But it didn't work enough to do it long term. Like I was definitely ready to get them here. And my wife's job, she's fortunate enough that the doctor's letting her try to do remote. And so we're going to see how that works, and hopefully it'll work out because, you know, she loves her job and she wants to stay working for them. So right now she's going back 2 days a week. So she's having to drive 4.5 hours she left at 3:30 this morning and drove to Sherman, and she'll be there today and tomorrow, and then she'll be remote Thursday and Friday. And we're going to see if that works. And if it doesn't, then, you know, she'll find something else. But
that's the amazing thing in the baseball community, what everybody has done to get to where they're at and the sacrifices that you make. And like, I just don't, people from the outside looking in don't realize the sacrifices that families make to make this whole thing, this whole journey work. It's a lot of work, a lot of sacrifices.
My wife's a rock star.
Yeah, mine too.
100%. Like she encouraged me to do it. Like I wasn't going to do it. You know, I wanted to do it. I felt like I needed to do it. I felt like people thought that I was just going to die at Grayson, which was not my goal ultimately when I first got into this deal to be a junior college baseball coach and retire. I'm fine with that. Like but that was never the goal, you know, and I think because I had played there, because I was Tadlock's assistant at Grayson, because I had been there for so long, I think it was kind of getting to the point where I thought people thought that was the end goal for me, and that was not the end goal. Like that was never the goal. I mean, I want to coach Division I baseball someday. I'd love to have the opportunity to do it. Blinn's gonna make that hard, you know, because this place is awesome. It's a great place. So I mean, if the right opportunity presents itself, you know, I would consider it. It's hard to go from this level to that level.
Guys have been able to do it though. Coach Tadlock's a great example of a guy that's been able to do it.
That's the hard part to understand is
Dave Van Horn. I mean, you can go down a laundry list of guys that were JCs and have done extremely well.
And it's next to impossible to even get your foot in the door, really. But when you look at the Dave Van Horns and the Tadlocks and Skip Johnson and Wayne Graham, like the success they've all had at that level has been, they're not just successful, right? They're having success.
They're generational. That's generational success.
And I'm certainly not
putting myself of the game success
on that list by any stretch.
I was going to ask you. I don't know how many JC coaches have national championship at two different schools.
I've been told that I'm the only one, but I don't think that's true. I think Lynn Michaels with TSBN is really into the history of junior college baseball. And he's told me that I'm the only one that's done it. I want to say there was a coach at Howard a long time ago that maybe did it at Howard and did it somewhere else. It's a short list because I mean if that's true, it's just me and him. But yeah, I don't know. Athletic directors, for whatever reason, at the Division I's, even with all the success those guys have had, like there's a ton of great junior college.
I've said it multiple times on this. It's just athletic directors at that level don't always pay attention to baseball like they should.
Yeah.
And they're so focused on football and basketball that they don't pay attention to the baseball landscape like they should, because winners win. Every level of college baseball is good, and if you can win at one level, the likelihood of you winning at another level is pretty good too.
No, I don't disagree with that at all. And there's guys, not just on my behalf, like there's so many junior college baseball coaches that I think would be phenomenal Division One baseball coaches.
Well, they can develop. That's a big part of it. Like if you have a JC coach that's doing well, like they can develop players.
Well, in this day and age with the portal, I hear a lot of my good friends, I hate to use the word complaining, but it's like they're like, man, we're having to turn our whole team over every year. This portal this and portal that. And I'm kind of like in my head going, welcome to my world. Like that's what I've been doing for 25 years. Like that's what we do. We have a whole new team every year. We're lucky if we get like last year where almost every guy's back, but we had lost some big pieces from 23, Tate Bethel and Ian Collier and Crane and Didalowitz, basically our two best arms and our two best position players. And we replaced them with Davenport and Sweeney and Climby and Ferraro. Like, that's what we do. Like every single year, it's like, all right, we got to start over from scratch and you got to build quick. And because losing is not really an option for me. Like I don't lose well. Like I'm a terrible loser. Like not from the standpoint of like I can't handle it, but it's just like I'll be up.
It's hard to sit with. It's hard to sit with.
What we got to do to get better. Like it just and then the next day it's like, all right, this is the problem. This is what we got to do. Let's get to work. Like, it's not like you sit there and you're just mad. It's like, all right, well.
Figure out the solution. Solution.
Exactly. So I think junior college baseball coaches are probably more prepared or could adapt to the landscape of Division I college baseball as well as anybody could right now.
Yep. What are some final thoughts before I let you go?
I just appreciate everything you do for baseball and college baseball, man. You guys do a phenomenal job. What you did up in Grand Junction, interviewing all the coaches and getting insight to the high school kids and to recruit. I mean, our job is recruiting. So the more they can watch stuff like this and the more they can learn, the better they're prepared for when they do get to us. So just want to say thank you for what you do for all of college baseball. And, that's all I got. I don't know.
Dusty, I appreciate it, man. This is awesome. I knew after we talked in Grand Junction, I'm like, that's one of my guys right there. It's good stuff. So appreciate you, sir.
No doubt. Absolutely. I'll do it anytime. Just let me know.